We are going to have a conversation with two people. One of them is in the studio already. Justina WAMAE is a political commentator and she's a founder of Inatuhusu Movement.
Yes.
Justina, mambo yasiyokuhusu achana nayo, deal na yale yanakuhusu.
Yote yanatuhusu.
Very good. Ni yepi haya yanayotuhusu?
Good morning, Ndu, Eric and City.
Morning.
I'm excited to be here, finally. Sasa, yanayotuhusu ni gani? The economy. And Kenyans have forgotten that politics and economy go hand in hand. When you have a politician who is dead from the neck upwards and they make a policy on the economy, it will affect you. So this idea of Kenyans saying, Ruto na Raila waende waongee huko, haituhusu, they need to realize inawahusu ndewe na sikio.
Ndu umesikia?
Mimi the skill better.
Students kama Ndu amesikia ndewe.
The skill nimesikia. Ndewe, I'm not sure where it's going. Yes.
Kuhusu I got.
Get involved. It's a call. You don't remember after the election last year, 8 million Kenyans didn't vote. So they felt like they were not relating to the process.
Haiwahusu.
So I was telling them, inawahusu, because even if you work in a good company and the economic policies don't work here, the company will leave. And even that insurance you're getting, you won't get.
Hata hiyo kazi itaenda.
Itaenda, so inakuhusu. Guys who get power.
Sasa siwaambie Ndu ndewe ni nini?
Ndewe ni this part ya sikio. Ndewe na sikio.
Outside
I think it's this kalob. It's called the kalob.
It's called an earlobe.
Yes.
Okay. What does that have to do with it?
You see now, kitambo. Oh, not kitambo. When wahenga were coming up with these sayings, I think gossip used to be taken through the ear.
Right.
So you're told, why is it affecting? You say, when you're told, kwani inakuhusu, you say, inanihusu, the ear plus the earlobe.
Okay.
To make it look like it is very important.
Everywhere around the ear.
Yes.
It husus you everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah? Money and goto. It is the money and the goto. All right. So Kenya's biggest conversation is excited to have you here, Justina. Yes, you've been complaining. Oh, but you surely it's okay.
Thank you.
You're here. Let's just deal with that. Sawa.
Yes.
Yeah, bas. Kuna mtu City anasema City, that look is malaria.
Okay, yani na maradhi.
Unavyokaa leo.
Salala.
No. Kuna mtu kaumia.
Yani la haula.
All right. Our second guest is Eunice Lumalas. She's an advocate and an arbitrator, and she's in Women in ADR. Eunice, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Karibu sana to the Situation Room. That's the hot seat of the Situation Room. Make yourself comfortable.
Thank you.
To welcome you to the show, City has the day's proverb, and this week's proverbs are from
The Republic of Guinea.
Okay.
This is our final proverb from the Republic of Guinea. Knowledge is like a garden. If it is not cultivated, it cannot be harvested.
I'll take this back. Sorry, maybe you wanted Eunice to go first. Let
You
me go
go.
first. I'll take it back to what we study in schools. Kenyans are always asking, where is vector helping me? Where is this helping me? So probably we need to sit back and realize there was a purpose that vectors was put there to show you directions. Because Kenyans are like, inanisaidia aje. So cultivate the knowledge you get in school. Make sure that even if you're not using it, there's somewhere you're making use.
where? Eunice, what's your interpretation of it?
Actually, I think it's very apt for our conversation today because we are dealing with an issue of civil unrest and maybe to go deeper, conflict management and resolution. So when you do not have the requisite skills, have not gone through the learning and training of effective resolution of disputes, then you will not be able to use that knowledge effectively. And I think what we have, unfortunately, is a leadership that is not intentionally aware. Maybe they don't have that knowledge, or maybe they don't know how to apply it on how to manage and resolve disputes. Yeah.
But our political leaders, by nature, they know how to navigate these waters. You'd assume that they know how to navigate waters. You're always dealing with conflict one way or the other. You have your supporters and your opponents, and you're always trying to manage them. You're trying to manage your opponents so that they are less curly on you, and you're trying to manage your supporters so they also just remain as your supporters. So about resolving disputes, when you say that we have a leadership that seems to be unaware of how to do it, are you not being unfair on them?
Before I went myself through the training of dispute resolution, conflict management, I would probably think like that, But I think one of the essential skills that maybe induction for the executive, for parliament, would be training on conflict management and resolution, because it's a different ballgame than being on the campaign trail and dealing with your supporters. Because what we have now, currently, in our situation, not in the situation room, I hope.
Maybe even here.
But in our country, we know that conflict is part of our livelihood. And in fact, we can't do away with conflict. We must embrace it, because there's a positive aspect of conflict and there's negative. But if you're not aware of what triggers conflict, of how to handle communication in a potential conflict situation, then you'll not handle it well. And we have seen it in practice, I can assure you, in Kenya, from the time of the government came into place, and then finance bill, we could see there is a potential escalation of conflict. But we could also see there is a deliberate lack of management of that conflict by those who are close to the president, and maybe no one is there also to be able to speak on behalf of the government, or be able to say that one doesn't speak on, just management of information as it comes out. Hence, that proverb makes sense. If you don't know how to use it or to manage it, then it won't be
It's like
effective.
a garden.
Yes.
Okay, I hear as if you are advocating for the political leadership of the country to sit down and go through some dispute resolution. Why is it important?
Actually, there's no other option. Eric, there's no other option. Right now, the only option is dialogue. And it has to be professionally managed.
Dialogue between who?
Now, you see, unfortunately, maybe I can look at the poster for today's session. It was Azimio
and Kenya Kwanza.
Now, the people have perceived their conflict to be perhaps that the government is not listening to them, you see. And there's always a need to be represented. And now, in terms of the opposition, probably people don't see that there's anyone else to represent them other than the Azimio leadership. Okay? So that being the case, it's important that Azimio leadership rises to the occasion. And takes up the representative role of the people, understand what they want, and then take that to the dialogue room. It should never ever be about personalities. It's not about Raila. It's not about Ruto or our president, Honorable Excellency Ruto, or Raila, which is also, who is also an honorable excellency. So it's not about the honorable excellencies anymore. And I think that's the beauty of conflict. Conflict gives us an opportunity to address issues if we are ready to move forward as a country. This is a golden opportunity to dig down, to get to the root of the problem and put the issues on the table.
Justina, do you agree that there is no other way?
Where we are, there's no other way. But I want to tell Kenyans that Shimon Peres tells us, if there is a problem, if a problem has no solution, it may not be a problem, but a fact. Not to be solved, but to be coped with over time. We need to accept that kuna mshindi na mshindi. Ama is it mshindi na mshindwa? That is something we as politicians have to tell our supporters. Because sometimes this angle comes, every time there's an election in this country, ilibiwa, and then ABC is given so much money to ensure their security features on the ballot. There are so many processes There are so many meetings that politicians are called to by ABC. So I think we need to first accept that there's winning and there's losing. That is the starting point of this conversation. But as it is now, because of course you have to look for, because at the situation as it is, we have to look for something else, or what can we do about it? We have to rules a bit. It has always been that when there's chaos, Raila is called somewhere, there's a and money is poured. So I dare say right now, if we want to just the peace and tranquility, because the government owes us that. Tanzania people are sending TikTok, I think you've seen, they're saying musikuje kuharibu kwetu. And I'm very happy they're saying that, so that Kenyans can realize we don't have an alternative home. Mukiharibu huko amwendi kule. Raila apewe pesa. If that is what he wants, he's given money. Number two, government needs to realize that fuel is the issue. Sometimes you pick what other governments did that have worked. Why not return the fuel subsidies? They can't tell us they don't have money. We are seeing the globetrotting. We are seeing the extravagance. They have money. So let them give us fuel subsidies for one. And then they're taking photos on their shambas with maize. I want to remind government that maize, they will not force the farmer to sell to them cheaply, because they just gave fertilizers at 3,500. There was a cost of transporting the fertilizer to your farm. There were input costs. So they need to have a conversation with the farmer that we are going to sell to you this maize. Because I don't know why, for some reason, unga is the issue in this country. We forgot that we can eat chips now. Potatoes are cheap, peas are cheap, carrots are cheap. But we don't want to look at the alternative.
Chips are not cheap.
Now the potatoes, you see that the 10 liter is going for 30.
Bei chips imeshuka.
Imeshuka, say ni 50 bob.
Really?
Mtaani chips mwitu, I mean.
Na before ilikuwa pesa ngapi?
150. 100. Say you can buy chips for 50 shillings because the potatoes are available. Now, we cannot refuse this availability of potato.
Well, I didn't know.
Oh, you don't eat?
No, I eat chips. I even eat potatoes. I just didn't know. The price had gone down.
Then it takes us to that joke. A man was saying, today I took my daughter to the salon. My wife asks me for 3,000. Imagine I spent 700 shillings. So maybe you didn't know because of... Are you getting that joke? Yeah.
So, I mean, here and they're the opinions that are being put forward. Have a conversation, talk. My belief has always been that the people who are most important in this conversation are rarely brought to the table. And that's the majority of Kenyans who are walking the streets, who are hoping that there's a solution on a daily basis whereby food is cheaper, the cost of living is affordable, that you don't have to think, how will I survive the day? The most important people in this conversation are not being brought to the table. Is it time that the most important people in the conversation bring themselves to the table instead of being invited?
They have to. And that comes to, where are you voting for a person? We need to revamp our politics. In this country, when you ask someone, why are you voting for this one? Because Uhuru alikuwa anatesa Ruto, I'm voting for Baba because he's my tribe. But we never have those principles of a political party. The other places, you see, if there's even a snap election, people are going to vote, for example, Labour or Democrats, because this is what we stand for. For example, in this country, we don't even have a middle ground. We don't have moderates. And sometimes when you try to have a divergent view, if you don't support Azimio, people will say you're in Kenya Kwanza. We've never come to where you can have an alternative voice. Kenyans always want the best for this country. But during voting, they forget principles, inclusivity and diversity. They forget.
Ask you, do Kenyans understand what's best for the country?
I mean,
people talk about it, yes, but do they even understand it? Do they, if best for this country was staring at them in the face, would they know this is it? If someone asked them, describe what's best for this country and what it would look like, would they be able to describe it?
They know what's best for their politicians, but not what's best for their country.
You see, the conversation about IEBC, the conversation about fuel, the conversation about unga, is that really the conversation? Because everything that we talk about arises from decisions that have been made by people. Now, what sort of people are these who make these decisions? Because they live here.
A product of society.
They live here.
Yes.
If I may chip in, one of the reasons we see what is happening is because our democracy is not working as it's aimed.
Do we have a democracy?
We do have. We
Really?
have. We do have.
Describe
now,
it.
let me tell you, what we are supposed to do is to elect representatives in parliament. These representatives are paid from our funds. They're supposed to represent our interest. The opposition may be frustrated now because they are not able to get it going. They're not able to get their members working as they ought to in parliament. This society, unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption that mars a lot that is happening. So we have a parliament that is not representative. Unfortunately, just like the principle of law, justice has to be seen. It's how people perceive it. When you have a finance bill, if we are to hypothesize and say the problem is a finance bill.
It is not the finance bill.
Now, I'm just saying if we are, for the purposes of this submission, and there's a finance bill is in parliament, and you see statements going round by leaders that bill should not be amended even by a comma. Understand? Even a dot, it has to go the way it is.
Yes.
These are our representatives. We worked hard. I've worked in government. I was in parliament 8 years when we made a lot of changes in parliament. When there was only serious speaker in parliament, I was in that office. So now,
Does this
right.
speaker
it's
have
true.
a name?
Yes, he died. He did a very good job as speaker during the post-election violence. Kenneth Marende, we did a very good.
Kenneth Marende is
Yes,
excellent.
yes. I was in charge of the speaker's office at the time, and therefore I can tell you that we worked hard to ensure the salaries of members of parliament are different at a certain level, and we thought this independence is good. It's the same for independent commissions. We expected, for example, now, because it's not a laughing matter, we are in a strange situation. People think that Kenyans are very resilient and cannot take over. It's important to understand that change in a split second just go to manage people's and expectations.
Sounds like you want to gag politicians. Let them express themselves.
It's okay.
Those who are saying withdraw the finance bill by midnight, or you'll face consequences tomorrow morning, let them speak.
So that's why
The others who say we will not withdraw it, we're not even going to touch a comma, let them speak. In the floor of the House, they debated.
It's true.
Those who are saying withdraw it introduced amendments.
It's true.
Those who are saying you're not going to change a comma introduced amendments.
So basically, there are issues on both sides.
Yeah.
Everyone has interests. The best option now is mediation. Mediation is the only option. You can mix it with conciliation where interests can be balanced on a table.
But with our politics, do we have different sides really?
We don't.
Is there a difference really? I mean, these different sides we keep speaking of, what are they?
It's interests.
And interest is a commonality of interest, really.
In my opinion, having gone round and listened to the politicians, you'll hear the majority side, many of them saying, I didn't have campaign money, but William Ruto funded my campaigns. So, of course, even if they had an idea that this finance bill is retrogressive, they cannot go against the financial of the campaign. And then when you look at the minority side, they have options. The Katiba has balanced. They have the PAC, they have the Public Investment Committee where they do the oversight of issues. So I think what is happening right now is that the economy is doing so badly that a politician who was funded, because I'm sure both sides of the divide got massive funding from people who had interests. So the one who lost is still getting pressure from the financiers. So they're like, Ebu Skuma, we get something out of it. Betty Liungua, that's the reality of things. Because when I look at the Azimio side, these guys they're somewhat genuine, but they look like they're being forced to do things like sabotaging the economy to a point that government will call them.
But
they're pushing for dialogue.
They are pushing for money and handshake.
But Justina, this is the issue. I was looking at this paper today, and I was listening to the comments that are being made. The reference is the president saying that he will not allow Azimio to ruin I'm paraphrasing, to ruin the economy. Really? When I say this commonality, we are saying that 3 days of protest ruining the economy, actually it affects the economy very adversely. Yes. Simple truth, there's no question about it. But the decisions that are being made by Kenya Kwanza are messing up the economy in ways that 3 days of demonstration cannot possibly even damage. So who is damaging the economy?
Both.
Yes. Now, at the heart of this entire discussion, even as we get ourselves entangled in all sorts of knots about the economy and what have you, you see, the person whose interests everybody appears to represent is left naked in the rain. The same problems they had yesterday, it's not as the same, no, they've gotten worse. And the din and the noise about how the interests are being taken care of are also getting, the crescendo keeps rising, the problem just keeps getting worse. So when we talk about the economy, the conversation on both sides is false. If the opposition genuinely intended to solve these problems, they would have been talking about what they would do. Nothing stops them from having had a shadow cabinet of sorts to be telling us, you shadow. This one says this, you say this. This one says this, you say this. Nothing stops them. But that's not their interest. The government make their promises, say what they're doing, keep explaining to us what's going to happen. And the truth is, some things actually get done, but they don't talk about it enough. But generally, the economy just keeps getting worse. When I say there's a commonality, so when we say that they're different, where is the difference?
They are not. Actually, what you should be fighting for is not the changing of regime, is fighting the ruling class. The people are always the same. The same and over time, you know? That is a fact. One thing I also want to tell government is that, you see Tanzania, they're saying now they are really attracting because they have positioned themselves as an attractive destination. So when the government is bringing up policies, economic policies on taxation, to give back, you have to give 24 hours as if it's if you don't 24 hours, and then Azimio is bringing political instability, they should realize that an investor uses their own tools. They use Pestel, and then even the Kenyans themselves. I saw a thread on Twitter that investors don't want to invest here because we are thieves. If we make byros, I'll steal 10. If we make sweets, I'll go home with sweets. If I'm like the one who is fueling my lorries, I'll lose my fuel because that is my stock. So even the social aspect, how we are as Kenyans, pushes out investors.
And yet, Justina, if you look at all these websites and all these social media platforms that talk about investors, there are still people queuing to come and invest in Kenya, despite all these things that we are saying.
Now imagine if that wasn't happening. But bringing back to the issue that Ndu raised, at what point do the citizens actually participate? You're pushing for alternative dispute resolution. Where do the citizens play in it? You're saying that these guys are only looking for money. So should we citizens allow them to take our money, or should we tell them, kakando? We are seeing this political standoff. We've seen religious leaders, we've seen business people, we've seen others coming out and saying, you know what, maybe it's time. Even the media, our Editors Guild has said, dialogue is important at this particular point. Do you think it's bad manners if we actually say that every time we have this kind of skirmishes, we just, please, can you just talk? Please, can you just talk? Justina, you're a politician.
It's bad manners because assuming Sifuna, if Wanjiro said, hata mimi nilishinda, you stole my votes. Everyone, even your local MCA, the one who was number 2 says, even me, I want a handshake. That is why I said some things are not a problem. You can't solve them. You have to cope with them. That you go into a competition, you lose, you kubali. And to be honest, if our economy was working, and I don't want to point at a specific person in Azimio, but if the economy was working, someone would go back to their law firm, they earn their money in another way, instead of wanting to be in government. The tragedy in this country is that public service pays, it's lucrative, but private sector is struggling. How I wish we had a thriving private sector, but when I lose, I'll go back to my biashara, come back the next election. But now everyone is like, I invested in this, there are people who funded your campaigns, they want their return on investment. Additionally, I've sought for votes twice, 2017 and 2022. And let me tell you, on the ground, people forget their problems. Right now, Kenyans are awake to what is happening. But come 2026, 2027, guys will be like, do you have money? This is my person. They forget again that the election, the voting cycle is just like a year. But now we need to move from voting to delivery. That is why at some point in Nairobi walisema, let us give Sonko ndio atatoa Kidero. Guys forgot the delivery aspect, not after election. And then, so I think it's important for the National Assembly to give IBC the money they've always asked for civic education. And then also media, you're doing a good job, because now at least Kenyans are listening and they're seeing this conversation, not towards the election, but at least early enough. Additionally, maybe what media can do, because I know you crowdfund for the debates and all this. Once the IEBC declares that these are the presidential candidates, it's important to have analysts to look at manifestos, different manifestos. Right now, Kenya Kwanza is saying that our housing fund was there, our housing project was there. But I think what we missed is to hear the how. How are you going to fund for it, or where are you going to get the money? So at least if manifestos are analyzed from the money perspective, the how you're funding it, we'll know what you're paying up for.
You know, this MF now sitting in dark corners and waiting with. Prior to any of the stories that we now hear about the government getting involved in housing, the government was involved in housing. That's why we had National Housing Corporation. That's what they did. Now, in the Moi era, IMF and their cousin World Bank came in and brought in what they called conditionalities that guarantees that entities like National Housing stop being what they were. It's the government had a plan, and it worked. We do have national houses that exist. Yes. They were there. Now, this issue of bringing new houses, it's not as though, it's sometimes presented as though it's a gift to the people. It is part of the mandate that every government has, and in many ways you can see they are trying to fulfill it, but there are always hurdles. Now, what I wonder is, and you brought an important point, Justina. Right now, Kenyans, I'm told there's a term called woke. Okay, I suspect it's meant to mean that you're so wide awake you're not even sure you're wide awake. so you're woke. Now,
it's not woke.
No, woke. I use the W word, not the G word. Because if I use the G word, I'd be talking about something completely different. This situation that we find ourselves, this wide awakeness, can the citizens realize that every conversation we have, even the one we're having now, it's actually about the mwananchi. When you, Justina, seek an election, it's about getting mwananchi to move behind you. When the government says things, it's to get the mwananchi to support their view. When the so-called opposition say their things, everything is about the mwananchi, the people. The power that a leader has with the people is what gives them power. This simple thing, there seems to be a disconnect. People don't seem to get that they are actually the power. Our constitution went and stated it and made it part of the constitution, but it's it. Now, when everything is about you and really you have the power to change it, and then you don't change it.
Politicians thrive on ignorance of the masses, and that is why I think they don't even want to allocate finances to IBC for civic education. I mean, they're always complaining that there are people who are never even haven't been paid, and they were in their by-election last year, So IBC has been affected in terms of funding. They can't do their projects. But I think mwananchi has to realize that it's not an issue of wanasiasa. Right now they're saying Ruto na Raila waongee huko, waongee wapi? And you're part of this conversation. You should be saying that next time 2027 when you're voting, you have children who have gone to school, they have not gotten. If when you finish school, get something to do. How? Government is not giving a conducive environment for business to thrive. So need to change how they see things about your transport. And I think it's a good thing that you're having this challenge now. And the conversation has shifted from now political and freedom of rights to the economy. Kenyans are realizing if you make policy that is stable, the economy will go down. Mboga herself, right? The heat, moja na watu boda, because they are being eliminated from the ecosystem. Everything that is, if you're in the middle class, your company is shutting down and thrive. Mama mboga will make money because someone will call, Mother, make for me mboga. The boda guy will carry more people in the morning who are going to work and in the evening who are coming back home. So I think people should, what I think Kenyans should do, just shun big money spent in campaigns. Don't want to be given anything. You just listen to ideas. But it's not, that does not happen. We say it on radio, but on the ground, things are different.
Why? Different. I think that's the question. When you go down to the ground, because we talk about an aspirational population whereby people are invested in good governance and leadership, where good governance is actually a model that the people can see and say, my vote, the vote that I make on that day translates directly to how well a nation will be governed, or poorly, how well or poorly a nation will be governed, and then how I can thrive in this conducive environment that you're talking about. They can see a direct correlation between the two. To be honest, the complaints that we hear today, we are not able to link, or maybe not willing, to link the relationship between the decision you make at the ballot and the experience that you go through today. We can color it how you can say whatever you want about it, but it is the truth. The problems that you see today, the issues and experiences that you see today, as a direct result of the decisions that you make. My question is, how do you get this woke population then to connect the two? To say, clear, the things that I hear may not necessarily be true. Because we know, guys, campaign promises, whatever, are just those. They are just words. That's the truth. Very little intent fuels campaign promises. Right?
What's the question again?
So the question is, how do you get people to connect between this decision that you have made and the experiences that you see today for future decisions? That's what you're saying now.
Okay. To be fair, I've also been around politics and politicians. It's not always possible for me to come and tell you, vote for me because I'm going to ensure that I want a higher salary than I earn right now, and I want influence. I want to get you, but that's what it is all about. And to be fair, they have to try and tell you other things like I will ensure you get a better road and everything. It's just how it is. And sometimes we must see politics for what it is. That aside, there are places where this politics actually works. And how is that possible? Because we're able, even ourselves, in studio, you can help shape this whole architecture by making people focus on issues and not individuals. How do we do that? For example, now we have a crisis, and it's a beautiful opportunity for us to shape conversation into issue-based conversation. How do we do that? There are two levels. The first level is to get a dialogue between people's representatives, whether we like it or not. We cannot have a kikao of all Kenyans coming to give us their issues.
Right.
We can look at the social media comments of Kenyans and understand what it is they feel.
Yep.
What I have seen is Kenyans felt they are not being listened to. That is a cause for conflict. Kenyans feel that the government is arrogant. And are they wrong? No. We have seen comments that are shocking from leaders, and some of those leaders have even, I think the president has also seen it fit to place them aside for certain instances. When you get a foreign leader who comes and said, I would rather not meet this and that official, that's an indictment to your company, the company you keep. And I think it's very serious, even for us as a people, when someone comes to see the president and said, make sure this one doesn't come to the meeting, and these are cabinet secretaries. I think that's a very serious indictment. Having said that, I think there has to be two levels to this. A first level in terms of conflict management, it has to be a session that is led by professionals. Remember what happened with Kofi Annan. As women in ADR, I am a founder member of Women in Alternative Dispute Resolution, and we have a team of over 150 ladies, some of whom they are professionals in alternative dispute resolution, reconciliation, conciliation, mediation, and the likes. And we have reached out to both sides of the divide. We are willing to give them a team of professional mediators, because without professionals, honestly speaking, sometimes you think I know how to resolve disputes, but there are skills that come with this. So you need a team of professionals. Our is Justice Aloch, currently done on. And we have a team. They can sit with them and help them to navigate the issues. It's
Just
not
a
about
political class.
it's not about and with the hand. The president say that we are ready to talk, but it's not about the handshake. If he would have left the part of handshake out, he will still be effective in terms of his statement. You know, we are ready to talk is enough, and we are ready to help both sides to find ways to talk.
There's something you said.
The deeper level, sorry.
There's something you said, Eunice, which is it's important for people's representatives to sit together and have this dialogue. Are you only limiting it to elected politicians?
No, I am not. You see, there are leaders in the society. And the Kenyan society has a reverence to religious leaders. They can come to the table. You can get one or two who comes to the table for that purpose with together with the team. And basically at this point it will be the team from both sides. It will be government is government, it's defined. And there will be the other team to look at the issues.
We've already seen those who are in political leadership have already defined their issues. What you said about Kenyans feeling that the government is arrogant, that those in leadership are arrogant, that's not an issue that has been put on the table so far. What you said about Kenyans feeling that, you know, the political elite has withdrawn itself from the issues of the Mwananchi. The Azimio side has come up with its issues and said, fungua server, stop stealing our members, punguza bei ya unga. And what's the other issue? There are four, right?
Finance Act.
This other side have said, okay, come, let's discuss this IEBC issue, blah, blah, blah. But where will the issues of the Mwananchi be discussed?
That's perfect.
When they have already defined their issues are fungua server and let's have, don't steal our members.
And that's where you need a professional mediator, Kofi Annan type. Yeah, and by the way, when we were coming up with the Elections Act, I remember being at a meeting where we were looking at amendments, and I proposed that it would be nice to ensure that we have a framework for resolution of political disputes by mediation and conciliation prior to their escalation. Because if the president, for example, had someone who is monitoring potential risks, either legal or political or, you know, conflict risk and advising on that, then there's a way in which you can manage conflict before it escalates.
You know, sorry, but for me, I don't. This mediation that is taking place is between two sides. They've already decided what the issues are. For me, you're mediating
their issues.
Their issues. They are the ones who've said this is the majority of the people for whom these issues are weighty. Because let's be honest, and I say it, the people who are out on the streets, the goons every now and then, are not the ones who these are our problems. We want to talk about those issues, let's talk about those issues. Education in this country is a mess. The health situation is a mess. Look at Nakuru. Babies are dying. 4 babies are sharing one incubator and they say it's a funding issue. What do we want to talk about? We want to talk about infrastructure and roads that have not been finished. We want to talk about budgets that are being made. Borrowing is happening through the roof for projects that exist, don't exist, have already been done. Those are the issues. And then on top of that, Kenyans have to struggle every day to survive. Not to thrive, to survive. Those are the issues.
That's
now we are saying invite mediation, and these issues are not even on the table.
Now I was
don't steal Sabina from our side. Don't
True. So basically, I had said there are 2 levels to this. The first level is to bring this conflicting situation to rest.
Okay.
The next level is to look at the root cause of the issues. And those, I mean, when you think about the root cause of the issues, why are we where we are? Every 5 or so years.
Because
why are we
because
people, we are not going to the root.
All those people in phase 1 are the root cause of our
so we
issues.
just take them, we drown them in the Indian Ocean.
We go and have our conversation. We can go and have our conversation and then we call them.
But no. But the thing is this, honestly speaking, for example, we are still a young democracy, and we can tell for a fact that perhaps this winner takes all presidential system may not be the best for us. Let's admit.
Let me give
you know why. Let me just finish. You know why I say that? When you have one individual who tells people you cannot go to work, tomorrow, the day after, and the day after, and he's not in government, and they don't go to work. What does that tell you?
That people don't like work.
The people were looking for an excuse to stay home, and they said, okay.
It's possible.
They're just looking for someone to tell them.
It's possible. It's possible that that's the reason. We don't want to go to work, but there are those like us who are in private.
It basically
business,
tells you this person has political influence.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Again, people. This is somebody who has understood and over time has been able to galvanize people behind him.
Yeah.
It's not
Absolutely.
complicated.
Absolutely. And
On your question, where do the people come in? They come in when you vote. Then you give your powers to your representatives. The same ones who are saying the campaigns were funded by Ruto, the other one, I love Baba. So you lost your voice the moment you voted for someone who, on the basis of it was not issue-based, it was based on personality or what at that point. Another thing we need to realize, in 21st century, we are living in a world where populism, polarization and post-truth is thriving in politics. I lie about you, the more I'm getting bonga points. The more I say msiende kazi, the more I'm getting bonga points. You see? So I think when you look at the issue of conflict, one is of preventing the conflict. The Constitution had gave modalities. During voting, declaration, you go to the Supreme Court and all that, and then someone is sworn in. That was part of preventing conflict.
Yes.
Right? And then issues of early warning signs. Before Unga issue, Azimio was saying that Kenya Kwanza bribed their agents. So early warning sign, the weakest link is agents. Take care of your agents, get agents who are loyal to you. As in, it has always happened.
Protect them from the thieves.
Today we are talking about now.
Justina, we do not lose our power when we vote. We never lose our power. It's not as though once you voted, there's nothing you can do. No. There's always something we can do. Always.
So we just
Which
abscond
is?
Yes.
and abrogate
Which
that
is?
power.
Yes. Eric has gotten it because instead of understanding that when you've given someone a function, you need to supervise and make sure they do it. And if they don't, you do something about it. We do this in our everyday lives. And yet, when it comes to the most important thing, people make decisions about everything that's important to you. You don't supervise them. You don't call them to account. How is that possible?
Remember, there was a law on recalling. And then, I don't
It's
know.
still there.
It's there, but you're told you can't
It's-
recall before 2 years.
No, it's been watered down to the point where it's ineffective.
Right.
Or next to impossible to implement.
Exactly.
But the
But-
Constitution still provides for it
Yes, but you can hold people to account.
without
You can.
necessarily even having to recall.
You
them.
don't even need that clause to be able to hold them to account.
For example, now we are talking about the common mwananchi. You're in WhatsApp group with your mheshimiwa, but the only time you use your phone to call mheshimiwa is when there's a burial, is when you want them to send you handouts. Remember, I want Kenyans to realize that your vote has a lot of power. Don't just vote for someone because unataka kumsaidia lipe mortgage yake. Some people argue, mheshimiwa is like, if you don't elect me, I won't get pension for the next. You see, that I've been on the ground. That's the conversations Kenyans tell you. Wacha tumpe tu ndio apate pension. I think 5 years you don't get, but after 10 years you get. So already Kenyans have been taught issues of this. It's not about the issue. And that always ask Kenyans a question. Meaning that, hakuna shule. But why are you taking your kids to school? Because you're expecting in future they're going to get a job, they're going to thrive. But where are they going to thrive if the policies are not favorable?
That's
so
it.
Inasu, ndewe na sikio.
Bas. Eunice, thank you very much.
thank you.
You ladies should come again soon.
Why not?
Together and separately. As Eunice will put in the legalese variously. Okay. Eunice Lumala is an advocate, an arbitrator, and one of the founders of Women in Alternative Dispute Resolution. Justina WAMAE is a political commentator, founder of Inatuhusu Movement. Keep it here for more conversations.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.